What is going on, everyone? So today I have Noelle, who is both an Amazon and a Walmart seller. She sells more than 50K a month on Amazon alone. And today I have the pleasure to pick her brain in the middle of Q4. Noelle, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I haven't done one of these in a while, so excited to do another one.
Yeah. I think I've seen a couple of your interviews. I can't remember what channel it was. It might have been Duke Does Amazon, I want to say, right?
No, I think it was, yeah, I don't know. It's been a while,
Okay.
so.
Okay. Anyways, I've been following you for quite a while, and I think I saw I think I searched something. Oh, shipping templates. It was for shipping templates. You have a YouTube video on shipping
Mhm.
templates. Is that right?
Yeah, that's
And
actually funny you say that because that's like the best video, like as far as views. I'm like, dang, no one must talk about like shipping templates on YouTube because like
yeah,
why did this one do so well? So that's funny.
yeah, it's one of those things. I have a video on just how to ship out certain products, like going on web page to page. And I think me myself, it was such a pain because I had to blur out so much stuff, and
Yep.
I think that's why people refrain from doing it. But that gets a lot of views as well. I think I'm not sure if it's sheer quality of the video or just the lack of other content out there. But your shipping template video was really well done, and you did it. Can't recall it now, but it was really step by step, and I followed it
Mhm.
correctly, and it worked for me. So I appreciate that
Oh,
video.
that's great. Love
Um,
that.
so just to the viewers, can you give us a quick intro about yourself, please?
Yeah, so my name is Noelle. I go by Kona Reselling on social media. I started Amazon back in 2021 of March. The main reason I got into it was because I had a kid and I didn't want to work full time at a grocery store anymore. So I was like, okay, I need to find something online. I stumbled upon Amazon through YouTube and I watched like 2 weeks worth of YouTube. Like I just binged YouTube, everything about Amazon. And then I was like, all right, it's time to go start it. So I started in thrift stores, just looking at books and other items. Now I know not to sell items new that I get from a Goodwill. Didn't know that at the beginning, but and then I got into clearance at Walmart, and then I was like, all right, now I need full price items. So I was just again looking at Walmart, other places, and then I transitioned into OA. Just because I wanted the ease of being at home. I was tired of being in the store for like 3 or 4 hours a day. It just didn't work anymore with my life. So then I transitioned to OA, and now coming on to 2023, almost 2024. I'm hoping to get more into wholesale, and I placed my first wholesale order like a little less than a month ago.
Saw that.
So that was exciting, and so I'm hoping to get more into that. Just again for the ease of purchase, like OA can be very time consuming still. You have to learn what websites don't cancel and all this stuff. So I just want to work with someone who wants my money. I don't want to have to like fight a company to be like, let me buy your stuff.
I know.
So that's where I'm at now as far as what I do on Amazon. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit like a little nice intro there.
Awesome. Thank you for that. When you were thrifting and whatnot, you can still sell books used, right? You were saying
Yes,
that.
you can sell anything used, but I used to like if it was like a brand new book, like sealed, I'd sell it new. Or like if I found something else that was in a thrift store, like a toy, I'd sell it new if it was new. And now I know that like if you got a counterfeit claim, I wouldn't be able to fight that. And
uh
so it's just like it puts your account in jeopardy when it doesn't need to be. So as a
mhm.
new seller, you just like don't know that until someone tells you.
Right. And it's just one of those things where you have to start somehow. Like I also,
Mhm.
I had a bunch of used books from college that those are kind of like my first sales. And
Mhm.
I want to say I still sold them used. I can't recall anymore. But now that I think about it, like I don't have any invoices or anything. I don't know if they can do any kind of counterfeit claim on a used item.
Not used. No, you're completely safe on used stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, as long as you
Oh,
sell it used. But yeah,
yeah.
I used to do that too. I used to go on Facebook and type in like textbooks,
Yeah.
and I would just look at all this stuff. Homeschooling books. Oh my gosh, if you can get homeschooling books, you'll make a fortune. So I was doing that. I was hustling like all the time like that. So
Yeah, I think books is kind of something that people are familiar with because
mhm,
my whole train of thought when I first started was, well, I know a lot of these books are going to be in demand in the fall and the spring. And I was in school for last, whatever, 4 years at that time. And I knew all the books that were in demand in my department or whatever. So I was like, well, since I'm familiar with these books, I'll just try to sell these. But then soon to realize like it's hard to really sell college textbooks unless you get them used or you find them back in school or in college campuses, you can
yeah.
find them because so many people are trying to get rid of their books, but it's kind of hard to find them, especially OAing used college textbooks. For myself, it was kind of hard unless if you go on eBay, but then you're kind of playing with fire there. So.
There's
Cool.
ways to there's ways to do it there. I didn't get that far into it. I think I did maybe 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks total, and then I was like, "All right, screw this textbook thing. I need something, like, more than this."
Yeah,
And
but
then I got into, like, the clearance Walmart stuff.
there you go. There you go. But I think it's for a seller, someone who's new, it's you just got to find that one thing to sell, and once you see that thing sell,
Mhm.
it gives you that confidence boost. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering. I think you mentioned that it took you for a while to actually start, right? You hesitated for a little while. Can you tell me about that?
I didn't so whenever I first started, it wasn't that I was hesitant, I was trying to figure out what it was. So
Okay.
I was like, the first thing I did was go on YouTube and I was like, how to make money online from home. And
Right.
you're gonna get a whole bunch of spam
Drop
crap. Oh my
shipping.
gosh. So yeah, I actually bought a drop shipping course for like 300 bucks.
I had
And
to.
then like maybe a week later, because there was like a 3-week guarantee, I was like, I'm not gonna use this. Like I could just tell it wasn't like I wasn't gonna utilize it. So I got my refund, thankfully. I didn't have
Yeah.
to waste money on that. But yeah, I almost got drop shipping. I was thinking about doing like Etsy or what was something else? There was so much like the virtual the KPD or something on
Ebooks. Yeah.
yeah. So
Mhm.
I was thinking about like doing that and getting a ghostwriter and all, and I'm
Yeah.
like, eventually I actually stumbled upon a YouTube channel. He doesn't do any more Richie Hustles.
Uh-huh.
I always so he was big on Walmart clearance.
Oh,
And so I saw that and I was like, that looks fun because I like to go in stores and shop and stuff. So I was like, that seems more something I could do.
mhm.
So I kind of watched him and what he was buying, and I would go in and kind of look for similar things or just looking for the clearance racks. I was just scanning everything, and I was taking anything that made money. Like I'm telling
Right.
like 50 cents, oh 50 cents, I'm grabbing it.
Take it.
A dollar, grabbing it. I wasn't picky. And I mean, I wasn't even using Keep at this point. I was only using the Amazon seller app, just seeing what makes money.
Right.
Um, so I remember the first thing I sold. So I sold books, but once I was done with that, the first item, like actual like retail item, was from Big Lots. It was like protein bars, and I had sent them into FBA, and I saw it sold, and I think it was like 13.99. And I remember seeing that number and being like, I remember being at the bottom of my apartment, my steps, and thinking like, I can do this. Like I just
Right.
made money. I just sold that. Like I can do this. And I remember that's when it clicked. Like I was gonna be able to make this work. Like I always had the mindset of I'm gonna make something work. I don't know what it is, but like I'm not going back to working full time at a grocery store. Like I want to be home with my kid. So I think mindset has a big role to play. If you're just in this to be like, oh, we'll see if it works out, most likely it's not going to work out. Like you have to be determined because you're going to lose money. You're going to make money, but you're going to lose like money along the way. And even till today, like I still lose money on some products. Like that's just the business of this.
Right. Yeah, the drive and mindset are really important in this process, right? And
Yeah.
I think what you were saying, you started with selling other things online. I think everyone I was telling someone else, it's hard to find anyone who just came in cold turkey just selling on Amazon. A lot of the people that are successful on Amazon have tried other avenues like drop shipping, Shopify. I've had my share of a drop shipping business. I've had my share of selling on eBay,
Mhm.
sneakers. And then I kind of fell upon Amazon mainly because the YouTube algorithm. I feel like if you're selling online, it'll share some sort of
Yeah.
Amazon reselling video, right? And then
100%.
what you were saying earlier, you're alluding to just selling something and feeling very like just surprised and pleasure as well. I think at first it's just the thrill of being able to sell something. Forget about the profit, just seeing it sell. It's so addictive, you know. And then you start kind of putting two and two together and actually being more calculative. But that's awesome. Yeah, the thrill of selling at first is great. Then once you start getting the process and make it a business, it's even more rewarding, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that like there's like serotonin releasing when you're making sales. Like I feel like it puts you in a really good mood because it kind of like tells you like what you're doing is right. Like you're making money. I did actually sell on eBay. I forgot. I sold on
Right.
eBay during when I got started on Amazon, like in the beginning to kind of help. So I was going to garage sales and I was doing really well on that.
Yeah.
And then Amazon kind of started taking off, and I just saw how quickly it moved, and me being able to send in my inventory into FBA and stuff. So I eventually kind of like steered away from eBay.
Mhm.
I still kind of sell on there, but now I just all my focus is on Amazon just because of the movement. That's just like makes sense for me.
Right. I sell on eBay, but not primarily. It's just more so liquidation, just make my money back.
Yeah. Yeah, now that's what I would do as well.
eBay's excellent for anything that comes in return is kind of damaged, especially because I used to do a lot of shoes. So that's something that
Mhm.
you can sell
Yeah.
used and you can for the buy cost that I got that shoe for, I can easily make my money back, and then some even. Honestly, I've resold used shoes because some customer wore it and sent it back to me, and I still sold it for a profit, which is kind of wild,
Yeah.
And this is a great time to really liquidate during Q4 because a lot of people
I
are also
know.
shopping on eBay as
If
well.
you have the time. I
Yes.
have a whole bunch of bins I have not listed because Amazon took off, and I've actually had that since, like, 2022. It's
Oh
bad.
dang.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you have to like kind of make time for like some
Mhm.
time on the weekends or something like, all right, I need to list all this stuff because it is difficult to pick up my phone and like take pictures and all that when you're so used to just adding an ace into a listing, right?
Oh my gosh. That's why I'm like the ease of Amazon, and I
Yeah.
mean, I just recently started getting into Walmart too. So just like Amazon just really like spoils you.
So as I was mentioning Q4, how did you prepare for Q4 this year and what's your current approach day to day?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be honest, I really didn't plan at all. Like there were some SKUs that I knew did well last year. So I knew when they came up, I looked at how much I sold last year and I made sure I bought at least that much. So there was one product that I had and I saw over the course of like 3 months, I sold 100 of them. So I
Mhm.
made sure when it dropped and it became available online, I bought at least 100. Well,
Right.
I wish I bought like 300 because I'm already sold out.
Yeah.
So, I feel like every year you just learn a little bit more about Q4 and what you should do better next year. But my main thing this year was not having FOMO and
Gotcha.
buying too much of one thing. Because last year I made a lot of money on good products, but I also lost a lot of money because I had to liquidate because I bought like 20 of 5 different toys that just like tanked. Like it was just bad. I should have never bought that. And so I lost probably like $4 or $5,000 just on that. And
Mhm.
so it kind of sucked. I'm like, I worked so hard to ship these out and I made so much money, but then over here I made bad decisions and now like it's eating at that profit. Um, so really I was just focused on like, don't worry about buying so much and hitting 100K a month. Like, screw that. I want to actually make a good profit on what I'm actually selling and I want less mistakes. So that's kind of what my focus was on. Focus on the stuff that worked. So again, I looked at last year what was selling, what was really hot, and those are the items I went deep on. And then as new opportunities come up, like new toys and things like that, I still will buy some, but I'm very more like frugal with it
Yeah.
just because of the unknown. I don't know what this is going to look like. So it's less of a loss if something bad happens.
Well, you say you didn't have a plan. That sounds like you still had a
I
plan.
guess, yeah, I guess I had a plan.
But the core
Kind of
plan
just
looks like
fun.
sticking with what's been working, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been speaking of FOMO. My issue last year was buying things like toys and shoes that I already knew had kind of a higher return rate, and because it was Q4, because of those huge sales, I just kind of
Mhm.
threw that out the door and just started buying anyways, And that's kind of my FOMO is this whole year I've been trying to stay with things that have less return rate and it's been doing well for me. And I'm finding myself even this Q4, like kind of getting like I see these sales on shoes and clothes. And I'm just like, I bought some for sure,
Mhm.
but I'm not going so hard on like toys and things that can get returned as much. Um, and I don't know, every Q4, even like now, I forget the demand, right? Like you see the demand finally creep in kind of end of
Mhm.
November. You're like, oh shit, like did I even buy enough? Even though at that time I was like, I'll buy this much. I don't want to buy too much. You try to refrain yourself, but some things you need to buy more of. And it's going to be from your own data. Like you said, you knew things that you
Yep.
bought last year. So that's kind of what I did too. Last year, I think there was a few ASINs that do very well during Q4 just because of lack of sellers and increased demand, but it doesn't do well the rest of the year. And I found out that unfortunately because I had so many left over like January, February, but now I can gauge how much to actually buy. So that's from experience. You got a great plan. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And sometimes, I mean, even like I have a product that the buy box just got like the whole listing got suppressed. And
Uh,
so I didn't sell any. It was like a Christmas item. So I was like, crap, I had like 60 of these things. So I actually held them all year. Somehow the listing got fixed. I tried so many times myself. Don't I hate Amazon listings and having to edit them.
uh,
But anyways, it got fixed. And I sold out all of them. And it's so funny because when you have an item you've held for so long, you're like, oh, this is so annoying. I'm so happy I'm getting them out. But then when you actually sell out and you made money on them, you're like, should I go buy more? And you're
Yeah,
like,
no,
wait, but I shouldn't.
that
Um,
just happened for me as well.
it's so funny because
It's
you're like,
also one of those things where you have an ASIN that's hardly even selling. Like maybe you bought it like 2 months ago and it was kind of a bad buy because it's been selling so
mhm,
slowly. But then like yesterday, the last 3 days, it's sold out, even though it was hardly selling, and I just bought like 6 or 7 more, which isn't that much, but
yeah,
how slow it was, I wouldn't have done that like last month at all, like
yeah.
refrain. So, okay, so as it stands today, what is your Amazon FBA business model? Is it FBM mostly, FBA mostly, or is it a hybrid? Can you elaborate on that, please?
So I would say right now it's about 70% FBA and 30% FBM.
Okay.
Q4 makes it different. It's obviously skewed because I FBM a lot more during Q4 than I would throughout the year, just because FBM is very time consuming for an individual when you're doing it all yourself.
Right.
Especially if you have like a family, you have kids, like you don't want to be running the post office every day and have to worry about orders coming in. Even though it's fun, it's like I'd rather swipe and see my sales and I don't even have to touch them.
Right.
So my big thing is during the year, I'd probably say I'm more 90% FBA.
Mhm.
And then during Q4, I kind of tag on some of the FBM and I'm more like 30%.
So during the year, when it's not Q4, how do you determine whether you want to FBA something or FBM something?
The only time I will FBM it is if it's an oversized item. So something really big, I would have to FBM that. I don't want to send that into FBA just in case it got returned. I don't want to get totally screwed.
Mhm.
Or if it's like hazmat, but if hazmat,
Yeah.
it has to make a decent profit. Like I'd probably say I'd want it to make at least like $8 or $9 for me
Mhm.
to want to do it myself.
Make it worthwhile.
Um, yeah, to make it worthwhile.
Right. Yeah, I think for me personally, if there's a huge sale on like a big box retailer, I'll go ahead and FBM it because I know the price is going to plummet. So
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
just worth it on my end. But for the most part, I will FBA. I've been doing way more FBM lately, and I think the best part about that for me is just the cash flow because I'm profiting twice
Mhm.
while the FBA is still being shipped out. And I don't know. I think that's been a game changer for me. Honestly, I would say I'm probably 60-40, 60 being FBA.
Yeah.
The FBM, also during the year, I know a lot of people love multiple season. For me personally, I don't like it when it's multiple season because now everyone can just send it FBA.
Mhm.
And I feel like I had a competitive advantage with FBMing multiples because everyone doesn't want to do FBM, and I'm like, I'll do it. Just, if no one else is, and I'll get that profits, whatever. But during this time, I don't know yet. I think I bought a bunch last couple of days. I hope it makes it before Christmas. It's still got to go to my prep center. When are you going to start just primarily doing FBM, or you've already started for the most part?
So I actually just sent something to my prep center to go FBA that I hope to get there before Christmas. Because I've seen my check-in times fairly quick.
Yeah,
So I'm like, okay, I think it'll be okay. And even if it doesn't, looking at Keepa, it's still going to sell for a profit, and it's
yeah,
an item that's going to sell throughout the year. If
mm,
it was like seasonal, like specifically Christmas, like a stocking or something, like
you
you're
have to.
really cutting it close. Like I'd be a little more sketched out, and I'd probably FBM. Main reason I FBA too a lot of my stuff is the tax free, like because it goes to Oregon.
Okay.
Versus coming here, I have 9% sales tax. So
Ooh,
anything that's like
geez.
a decently large, like because I do a lot of small, oversized items,
Right.
like things like 13 inches long, 13 to 15. That just eats into some of the cost, like so much into my product.
Yeah.
So I always like FBA those type of items.
Right. Yeah. Right now, even if there was a huge narrative last Q4, I don't know if you noticed about check-in times. When
Hmm.
even last year, I was sending things in, and I feel like they hired more workers during this time, so things weren't slowing down for me, other than specific like IND4 is always slow, but like for the most part, most prep centers were fairly quick and they got it scanned in. I think Amazon's also had their foot on the gas trying to get things sold, and they're in the same position as us. And in January, I still saw my sales uptick. People got gift cards and stuff, so it's not the end of the world if your FBA doesn't make it
Yeah.
in time for Christmas. Even after Christmas, people get late presents, um, so as far as FBA and FBM, what are your advantages and disadvantages you've experienced with the two?
It's all comes down to like time and money. That's
Mm,
really what it comes down to. So FBM, I love it in the sense that I get the product in and it like goes right back out. Like that's awesome. It feels great. Like I got two things from Target came in.
uh-huh.
Um, and I listed them up and they sold by like the next day. And I was like, man, this is like music to my ears. Like, I love that.
Yeah.
And you just don't get that like instant satisfaction with FBA. But FBM, it's that quick turnaround. You get the product in, out, it's to the customer, you get the money back, and it's so quick.
Right.
And you kind of get that like serotonin release still, because like, it feels good to get that stuff.
Right.
And then FBA, like the number one thing is your time. Like FBM takes so much of your time.
Yes.
When I have a bunch of orders over the weekend, I'm working like the whole morning, like 3 to 5 hours of that day is gone.
Yeah.
So it's just so much more time of like, honestly, time you get back doing FBA is like worth it. Like, I think it's
Yeah.
100% worth it to do FBA like over FBM for that instant, unless you're really like you need the cash now, or you just want to get in on it and like get those inflated prices while you can.
Yeah. I think if you're a
But
new seller, oh, sorry, go ahead.
sorry, yeah, I was just gonna say the main thing, like why I like the FBA is just time. Like it's just so much nicer. Send it to my prep center. I don't ever see it. Send it to my prep center. They send it to Amazon. It sells, and then I get the money later. The only
Right.
negative is just the money. You just have to wait for it to actually get to you.
Right. And I was going to say, just to interject, if you're a new seller, it might behoove you to FBM if you're strapped on cash, like you were saying earlier. Me and you have the luxury of time more so because we have a little more capital from selling for a while. But if you're a new seller, I would encourage FBM because you can list it immediately and get your cash back relatively quickly. So awesome.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you were starting to venture into wholesale. You've just, I think, were you saying you just made your purchase or have they gotten live yet?
Yeah, yeah. I made it. I got it. And I already sold like 10 units. I need to send an FBA. They do a lot better FBA, like according to just Keepa and like the buy box stats and everything.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I've actually made some sales on that because I listed them FBM because I'm bad at sending stuff FBA now because I'm just
Mm.
like spoiled with my prep center.
Yeah, me too.
So I'm like, I need to do this, but it's just not on the top of my to-do list. So I list up at FBM, and if it sells, great. If not, I'll wait.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, sorry, I forgot the question. I went on a
No, you're fine.
rant.
So I think you were alluding to it earlier. As far as the wholesale model, what are some benefits you've already experienced? I know you've just started selling, but any key benefits you've experienced with wholesale over OA?
Yeah, so the main thing is people want my money.
Yeah.
It's just so much nicer to be like, hey, I want X amount of units. I want like 100 of this and 50 of this and this and this. And they're like, okay, great. Here you go. And here's the shipping. Go ahead and pay for it. And we'll send it out. Okay, boom, boom. And then I get it. Luckily, they're only like a state away from me. So I got it like with 1 or 2 days. And I was like, dang, that was quick. But
Oh, awesome.
that's
That's
the main
crazy.
thing. Yeah, that's the main thing for me is just I rather give someone 30 grand up front the first of the month, get the product, send it out, and then I don't even have to worry about spending anything else if I don't want to. That's really like the biggest like drawing in factor of why I want to get into wholesale. I just have to find all those wholesale people that I want to work with. That's the hardest part. But once you have, your 2 or 3 people, that can make you good money. And then you're just kind of sitting back and letting the money come in at that point.
Right. You're a real distributor at that point, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of want to piggyback that question. What are some tactics or information that you gathered to do wholesale and how did you execute that?
Yeah, as far as how to do wholesale, I feel like it's essentially pretty straightforward. I mean, I say that, but it's probably because I've just seen so much information on Instagram thrown
Yeah.
at me that
Mhm.
I've put together the pieces myself.
Right.
You can also just like Google like how to find distributors to sell or whatever. And I mean, it's like really laid out for you. Like it's really easy. It's just we're so used to being like keyboard like warriors. And
Yeah.
so it's like scary to talk to real people because
Right.
now you have to actually have like relationships with these people where before you're like, I don't want to talk to you. I just want the product. Like if you
Yeah.
see like, a support contact you, hey, we see you place this order. You're like, oh my gosh, they caught on to me. Like you get scared.
Right.
So the biggest thing is just being like social to these people and realizing like this is an actual business relationship. I'm not just some like 20-year-old ordering shoes on Nike.com. Like this is a legit business that I'm going to be spending thousands of dollars on.
Right.
But as far as the steps, I mean, it's as other than looking up a like something on Google, like a step by step, just typing in wherever you live. Like I live on the East Coast. Luckily, I live by like a really big port.
Mhm.
So I just type in, like East Coast distributor, grocery, or beauty, and you just start going down the list. And I vet them by the address. I make sure the address is a legit like warehouse or an office building, not someone's house or a UPS store. You want to make, avoid those places because they're kind of like hiding where, like, is this actually a wholesaler or is it like scams? There's a lot of scam wholesalers out there.
Yeah.
I verify like how long this website has been uh, like created. So like I think it's online lookup is what it's called.
Okay.
And so anything that's like recently created in the last 2 or 3 years kind of is a little bit of a red flag because it's like, okay, they just started. Is this like a fake website essentially?
Right. Yeah.
Um, and then I just get their contact information and then, you just start like reaching out, calling, hey, like I'm looking to open a wholesale account with you guys. I see you carry this, this, and this product I'm interested in. And then you just get better at it. It's kind of like sourcing. At first, you kind of suck, and then a little bit, you start to learn what you're doing wrong, and then you know how to talk to people. So the
Yeah.
biggest hurdle, I think, is just talking to people. That's really the biggest thing I think is the most scary part about it.
Right, because it's new, right? And something you were saying earlier, not really a drawback, but recently people are getting hit with just purchasing from illegitimate wholesalers,
Mhm.
right? So what you were saying, make sure they're legitimate. And I like those points that you were giving to find out how they are legitimate. Um,
Yeah.
Aside from that, which is an apparent egregious thing, what's a drawback? You mentioned because a lot of sellers I spoke with regarding wholesale, one of their negatives is the lead time. But it sounds like you get your
I
units
got one
rather
really
quick.
quick.
Yeah, yeah. So what is another negative that you've experienced right now with wholesale?
I can't really like say one. Like I know that sounds like corny, but
So you have
um
good ROI too, like the same, like comparable?
uh it's it's decent. So FBM it's decent.
Mhm.
FBA it's like right where I want it. Like it's
Okay.
perfect FBA.
Yep.
But doing FBM it cuts a little bit more into it like a couple bucks to make
Yeah.
it where it's like it's still good, but it's not as good as I want it to be.
Yeah.
Because I'm still looking at I still want to make at least like $4 or $5 on a product as
Yep.
long as it sells fast and it's
Mhm.
something that doesn't get returned a lot. Like this product I have, like it'll be next to none to get a return on it just for what
Awesome.
it is.
Awesome.
Um, so my one experience, I haven't really had a drawback. The only thing I could think of that would be a drawback is that you have to spend so much upfront. So
Yeah.
if something doesn't sell within an amount of time, depending on how you're using that money, like if it's a credit card with a 30-day limit, unless you have money from another avenue, like you're doing OA still, you may fall short and not be able to make your payments if you don't sell it all. So you kind of have to learn how much is a 30-day supply because you don't want to get too much and then you can't pay on it.
Right.
But you can also get like a line of credit. So it's not, it's not as scary.
Right. Yeah, and that's just cash flow 101, right? Something that doesn't get talked about as much as cash flow here, I think, in this community. So you were speaking about your item, about how you get low return rates on it. In your FBA business, OA and wholesale, what is your most preferred category to sell? And what is your least favorite and why?
Um, I'm trying to think my most favorite. I honestly don't have like a favorite. Like I don't like if it makes money, I'm good. Like I'm game. Let's go. And I'm ungated in it. I
Okay.
would probably say like what I prefer to sell right now is probably like kitchen and like appliances
Oh, cool. Okay.
because I recently transitioned from like low margins to higher margin, like higher buy cost. A
Uh-huh.
lot of times new sellers they get scared to drop 100, $200 on one product. Like that's
Yeah.
really scary. And
Mhm.
so like I kind of like to take go in there and like take advantage of that because other people aren't. So
Mhm.
that's kind of been my main. So right now, I would say kitchen and kitchen appliances have been like my like go to. Like that's been like my bread and butter right now. My least favorite category. I'm trying to think of something I don't like. I mean, I've never sold jewelry. Like I would think that would be like I would never want to sell jewelry on Amazon. That just sounds like return like a nightmare.
Well,
Uh,
before you go to your least favorite, regarding the kitchen items, you get lower return rates in that category as well.
So it depends on like the make or the model and the color. So like at first, like you don't really know. Like it's really weird because sometimes Keepa like can steer you wrong, even though it's like
Yeah.
great. Like as far as colors, so like variations. Like I work with a
Yeah.
lot of variations with it, like different colors and stuff.
Right.
And it can say like this variation's the best, but I know for a fact the one that's fourth down is actually the one that I sell the most of and get the least amount of returns on. So a
Interesting.
lot of times it's like color or model based is what I've noticed. Like there's one, and I still will sometimes buy it because the profit like steers me in, but I know that one is a higher return rate. Like I would say like for every like 5 I sell, 2 will get returned. But
Oof.
another one, for every 5 I sell, it's usually every no, for that one, it's like every like 8 I sell, I may get 1 return. So it's
Yeah.
weird. So like it's not about like yes, they get returned, uh, but you start to learn like which ones are getting returned, and you just kind of stay clear of those type of products without like giving away what like I'm selling.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. By logic, I feel like most of the time, if it's there's a black or like a gray kind of item, I just try to stick to that. A lot of times, if you try to get the loud colored kind of variation, those are the ones. At least with shoes, those are the ones that get returned. I try to stick with like black and just gray and stuff like that. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
that's kind of replicates the same kind of concept with kitchen, but that's interesting. That's a new one. Thank you for sharing that. So during your day to day, how much time do you spend sourcing, and how much time do you think a new seller should be sourcing?
How much I spend sourcing, I wish it was more than what it is right now. But with life, I just don't get that. If I could, I'd probably source like 2 to 3 hours a day.
Okay,
But usually, like realistically, I probably source maybe about 3 times a week. And it's usually for about like 2 or 3 hours.
okay,
I like to have a time slot. So if you're like a new seller, I think it's easier if you can set 3 hours to just source. You're going to find so much more products than if you split up those 3 hours into like one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and one at night. It's so much better to just like dive in and just like get lost in all the tabs open on your computer.
mhm,
Because if you're coming in and out throughout the day, you're just going to lose track. Like you need to really just like hone in and source. If you're a new seller, man, I would like try to source every day. It really depends on like the person. Like if you have a family, that's not reasonable. If
mhm,
you're some like 19-year-old kid with like nothing to lose, like go source like 3 hours a night, like a
right.
hundred percent.
And if for
Um,
nothing else, just to get that practice in, it might
yeah,
not even hurt
exactly.
anything.
But I would say as a new seller, you probably, I mean, sourcing is like how you're going to make money. So I would say probably at least 5 times a week, you should be sourcing at least 1 to 3 hours, like a day, at least.
Yeah, yeah, and I find a lot of people that tell me like they couldn't find anything and they haven't even sourced that much, And I think when I first started, I was sourcing every day, and I don't even think I found like an amazing product until every other day. Now it's a little more easier, and I have data behind me that I can look at and
Mhm.
go off of those leads, find new variations. When you first
You have
start,
like your own products. Yeah.
yeah. But when you first start, you have nothing. So it is hard to kind of get that snowball effect going. But when you start and get some sales in, you have your own data to look at rather than just Keepa. It makes things much easier. But it just the most difficult thing is to get off the ground first. But you're not going to get there unless you meticulously zone in what you're saying, spend hours sourcing. So
Yeah, like I mean, I didn't start with OA. If I started with OA, I don't know how my Amazon journey would have looked, but I did RA, and it's a lot easier, I think, to find
yeah.
profitable items in store
Mhm.
than it is online. So when I made the transition from RA to OA, it was because I joined like a Discord group, and
Uh,
there was a big bolo is when like chlorine and pools were like really big.
yeah.
And so
Thanks.
I would have never known about that if I didn't join the group. So like the group is what helped kind of push me to like order online and do these things. And
Yeah.
then I kind of like slowly trickled in from there. And I started doing OA, and then I was still doing RA. And then, that's when I eventually made the push all to OA. Unless it's Q4, then sometimes I may go in store, but
Yeah, that those are great times during COVID. Chlorine,
those were great times.
PlayStation,
Yeah.
shoes, everything was selling online. So that makes sense if you're not used to selling online. That it's kind of feels very foreign at first. And honestly, sometimes when you first start going online, it is kind of difficult to find a profitable product because nothing looks like it's a steal.
Mhm.
As opposed to what you were saying, going to the store itself, you can find much more steals and profitable items that route. But sourcing is a skill, so it does take practice, right?
And you're gonna source like different. Like the way I source in the beginning, or even like 2 months from now, is completely different than what I source now. Like you just keep evolving, like as you just do this longer and longer. Like I used to use like tactical arbitrage to like
Right.
find leads, and
Yeah.
I remember finding leads like pretty often. Like it was easy in a
Right.
sense for me to find leads. And then one day it was just like I just stopped using it, and it just like didn't make sense anymore, and I just like couldn't find anything. I'm like, I'm just gonna cancel this. I'm not using it. And I
Yeah.
just totally like dropped it. And I just started, using like another like method of finding like products. So you have to like keep evolving because Amazon keeps evolving. And if you think like if you don't like keep up with it, like you're gonna get weeded out and you're just gonna stop selling because it's oversaturated.
Okay. Well, that's a good segue to my question that I was going to ask you next is what are your most effective methods to source and what do you think a new seller should approach sourcing?
Um, I would say if you can go in store, I would go in store because it's just you're gonna find something in the store.
Especially now.
Like go to the clearance section. I just think it's so much easier. But if you're doing online, I would I personally like I always tell people like you need to join a group. I don't care if it's a free group, I don't like if it's a paid group, like you need some type of group because you're going to learn so much through them. Like when I started, I wish I joined a group right away. I waited about 3 months until I found one. But like it like changed everything for me. You know, I found friends that I still talk to today. Like I like in that friend group, like the leads that were shared, like I've made like thousands of dollars on those products. Like you can't get that by yourself. Like you
Yeah.
have to connect.
Yeah.
Um, Whether you just comment on their post and say like, "Oh, thanks so much for the help," like they notice that they're going to notice that name, you know, throughout. But as far as sourcing, I would definitely say get familiar with Keep a Product Finder and
Yeah.
utilize that
Yeah.
100%. I don't care about any other software other than Keepa and like going through like that system there. That's your there's so many different ways to source on Keepa Product Finder. It's ridiculous, and that would be like the only way I source. I went on there and I was having my VA source for me like that and giving me leads through there. I just think it's so much more valuable. And it's going to cut your time in a lot faster. Like it's going to make you a lot faster at sourcing.
Yeah, because when you're sourcing, you're trying to find items that represent a certain kind of keeper graph. Whereas keep a product finder, you're reverse engineering that, right? You already
Mhm.
got the keeper graphs, and now you can go look for those items. So yeah,
You don't
I
have
didn't
to
start.
find the product on Amazon. You're finding it at like a store. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No. Yeah. Keep a product miner is great. I just started kind of getting more versed with keep a product miner, and then I put my VAs on that as well. And now they're finding great use of that tool as well. And it's such a great like tool to find. If you find, I used to just do a bunch of reverse sourcing, manual sourcing, whatnot, and you'll find a lot of brands that you weren't familiar with. And if you put that brand and keep a product finder, you'll find so many different
Mhm.
products in a
I
brand that
love
you're
doing that.
unfamiliar with, and it just opens up the gates. So and a lot of my business now is these kind of smaller niche brands that you won't find on a huge big box retailer, but you're buying it
Mhm.
from their site, their store, source
I have
food.
that too. I'm
Yeah,
scared I'm gonna get canceled. I'm just like, I'm trying to be like careful because
yeah,
you never know, like, how big is this actual company? Are they gonna notice that the same name to the same address keeps popping up?
yeah.
Yeah, I have one of those too right now, and I'm just like crossing my fingers, like, please don't figure me out.
But see, sometimes I feel like if you're buying from these like brand directly, smaller niche stores, they might need your money more so than like a Kohl's or like a big box retailer who can do away without you. And I feel like that kind of works to your advantage. I'd like to think that at
Mhm.
least. Maybe they probably still don't care, but
I don't know. Some people just get mad when you're making money off their products. Like they just don't want to. They don't want you to do it. I don't know.
yeah, that makes sense. I mean, they create their own
Some
brand.
people
I've,
don't
I've
care
been I've been in that position before where I've started a brand myself. I started with PL, by the way, into Amazon. So I'm
though. Oh,
not,
okay,
I,
congrats.
and it makes me not issue any kind of IP complaints. I always message them if they're trying to sell on my listing because I know how it
Mhm.
feels to get an IP complaint. So
Yeah.
I never push that out. Okay. So I wanted to ask you this regarding Walmart. Could you explain how you started selling on Walmart? And do you recommend all Amazon sellers to also sell on Walmart?
Yeah. I would say I started selling on Walmart just because people were like, "Hey, this is like the thing to do." Like some of my friends were like, "We just, we started in Walmart, uh, and I'm selling my squishmallows that I can't sell on Amazon. The listing got taken off because of compliance
Oh,
documents."
okay.
So that's kind of why I even started Walmart was because I was like, I have all these squishmallows. They don't have an Amazon listing. I don't want to list them on eBay, and a lot of people shop at Walmart. That's a huge retailer.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to sign up for that. So I signed up. I didn't do anything probably for like a couple months. I got approved, didn't do anything. I finally came around to listing my Squishmallows on there and I started like trickling in sales. I was like, oh, this is nice. And then I started like cross referencing, stuff I was doing FBM for Amazon. I
Sure.
was doing it on Walmart and I was seeing like some things sold better. Like
Oh,
like a Halloween inflatable I had gotten one of. I put on Walmart and it sold like same day. And I was like, oh, and it like there wasn't a listing on Amazon. There was another thing where Amazon, it was like I think the price dropped down to like $64 for this inflatable I was selling, and I on Walmart there was nobody on it, and I listed it for 84, and it was selling on there, and I was like, oh, well, that's nice, and I was selling actually faster on Walmart than it was over on Amazon, and it was for more.
hmm.
So it's really weird. I don't have any softwares for Walmart right now to find like sourcing. I just don't have the time. Hopefully, I can do that more early
Mhm.
next year. Um, so I'm just like kind of seeing how it works, but it's pretty much just like my offspring from Amazon.
Hmm.
I've been I listed over there. And some of the stuff actually sells faster and for more. Again, there was another product it's like, I think it's like $80 on Amazon. And I sold it for 160 today on Walmart.
Jeez.
Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, and I thought I was gonna have to take a loss on this product. And I actually made money. I was like, oh, this is nice. So I just hit over 100 orders total for Walmart, and I've made over like, I mean, I haven't sold a bunch, obviously only 100, but I've made about like $1,000 in profit just off of like not trying, right? So there's so much opportunity there. Nobody really wants to get into it because it's kind of like messy, it's slow. The internet, it's
Huh.
always so slow. It's like
Yeah.
lagging.
Uh-huh.
But if you can like get through that like hardship of it, there's like nobody selling. Like I don't think I'm on a listing that has more than like 10 people. And that's like, Amazon, you can hop on a listing that's 200 people. Um,
Are you saying the dashboard that they have is laggy? Like when you're
Yeah, like,
listening?
it's just not, like, pretty. Like, it's not as
Okay.
pretty as Amazon. Amazon's very, like, sharp and, like, quick.
Yeah.
Walmart's not like that at all. It's a little bit messy. So
Right.
you have to figure it out, like, and I'm only figuring it out because I have friends doing it. So I'm like, "Oh, how do you do that? Oh, this is how you do it. Okay." And, like, so if I didn't have, like, somebody to, like, bounce ideas or say how to do this, I probably wouldn't even like, signed up for it.
And it's probably the fact it's laggy and whatnot might be indicative that there's not a lot of people on there, so they haven't made it a priority to get that
Yeah.
fixed up. So, another better reason to sell on Walmart. So it sounds like it's not like an eBay where it's
No,
liquidation.
it's already, like,
It's
made you
primary. It's primary.
Yeah, pretty much as long as the listing some has evolved at some point, you can
Mhm.
like hop on a listing. But if you have to create your own listing, it's actually fairly easy. You can like put in your photos.
Okay.
It's a lot easier than what Amazon does, and it actually will get approved. Versus um, like Amazon, like I
Yeah.
hate creating listings on Amazon. I don't know how it worked with your PL product, but like I hate it. I hated the few times I tried to do it.
And Walmart also has a fulfillment way, right? They have
Yes,
you can send
yeah,
it
they
in
have,
territory.
WFS. I
Okay.
haven't done that yet. Again, that's probably something I'll do early next year,
So you've
but
been
that
MFing
Huh?
Walmart. So you've been MFing Walmart
Yes, yeah,
merchant.
yeah, I sell it's just me sending it myself.
Gotcha.
I'll probably try to do, like, a shipment. Apparently, it's super easy, so I'll probably do that early next year, but right now with Q4, it's like,
Yeah.
that's not where my time needs to be devoted for.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's a great opportunity. But I think if you're a new seller, focus on one or the other. Don't try to do both. It's
Yeah.
just too much and you're just going to spread yourself too thin. So
Mhm.
either like go all in on Walmart and like learn Walmart now because there's a lot of opportunity there, or go in on Amazon, and yes, there's more people selling on it, but there's a lot more information about it. So it's kind of a give and take. But I think if a new seller only wanted to do Walmart, you could be very successful with Walmart, like surprisingly more than you think. Like
Yeah.
I would say probably a lot faster than Amazon in a sense.
Yeah, and this is technically your first Q4 with Walmart. So maybe I might even try to look into Walmart and try to see if I can start selling, liquidating kind of, but for a profit. It sounds like you can sell a
Yeah.
pretty high, reasonable
Yeah.
price too. So good nugget there. So I personally use BuyBot Pro extension as my calculator to analyze leads on listings and whatnot. Mainly, I think most calculators and extensions are useful mainly because of their Google Sheet export tool and then the calculator right on the listing itself. And for me personally, with my VAs, it helps me communicate to them. What are all the softwares that you use? Obviously, Keepa, but what are some other softwares that you use that you find helpful in your day-to-day activity with Amazon?
Yeah. So I pretty much just use Keepa and like Seller Amp.
Okay.
Those are like the main two I use. I use IP alerts. So that's just the extension. It's just a pop up saying, hey, this brand's known to give out IP complaints.
Mhm.
Beware. Um, and that's pretty much it. It's just
You use
those three.
Repricer?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, and BQ. I forgot. I
Because
forget because I hate having to do BQ every Sunday. That's when I go in and reprice, and I just hate it. I always don't want to do it. I really need to like train
I
my
hear
VA
you.
or someone to do it because like it's just it's
So
not fun.
one of my I have an admin VA, and then I totally agree with you. It just sucks and it's dragging because you have so many listings and it becomes
Right.
really overwhelming when you sign in.
Mhm.
I have them every day, just go through the listings. And as much as it sounds like it's a waste of time and money on our end, at least I know that someone's constantly priming the prices because prices can just,
Mhm.
sellers can just go out of stock. All of a sudden, something goes in demand and you want to sell for a higher price. All the while, Be Cool or what I use is Profit Protector Pro. They
Mhm.
do that. Your pricer is designed to accommodate the pricing and the demand. I still like knowing that someone's manually going in there and updating the prices as well as adding the prices. Also add, so I use BuyBot Pro extension, and they're under the
Mhm.
same umbrella with Profit Protector Pro. Their extension is actually linked to Profit Protector Pro. So if you have a listing up, it's already on the extension. So you can put the min, the max, the rule, and send it from the.
Oh, that's nice.
That's
Yeah,
probably one huge.
that's really nice.
That was one of the huge bonus for me to opt into their software, but more so for my VA because like my VA has the task of doing all that, and it saves him a lot of time to do it right on the listing. So
Yeah, I
uh,
think I've heard about that repricer. I don't know if that's a newer one or not, but I think that one was like rated pretty high.
yeah, no, it's been there for a while. I think they do both. They do. I know for a fact they do both EU and US. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
they market more on the EU side, but they work fully on the US side, and their customer support's really good. And I've recently started using them, and they're mainly because the price is a little bit more inexpensive than Be Cool and SellerAmp.
Oh,
But
really? It's cheaper?
yeah, yeah, it's
Oh,
cheaper,
maybe
but
I need to look into that
their
because
quality.
it's such a pain in the butt. Like I literally just despise having to go to BQ every Sunday.
Yeah, yeah. Just the repricer itself, just because we have so many listings. I would suggest even for a new seller, even if you have 20 listings, use a repricer because you get addicted to constantly changing the prices. And if you're on a listing with like 20 people, you're competing with literally 19 other AI, 19 other people who
Mhm.
have a repricer ready to go, and you're kind of manually changing prices. Not going to work, right?
Which is funny because like I only got one this year. Like
Oh,
I
did
used
you?
to reprice like 100 and something like ASINs.
Holy,
Mhm. Like every
yeah,
few days I would mainly do it. It just took me so long to do it.
yeah, yeah. So also bookkeeping. Do you use like Seller Board or anything like that?
So as far as bookkeeping goes, I have QuickBooks, and
Okay.
then I have like inventory labs, but I have an
Oh,
accountant now. So like I work with a accounting CPA
mhm.
like firm, and so that they do all of it for me, which is so nice. Like I don't have to look at that stuff. I just get the report every month. Okay, am I doing good? Okay. And then I get like the go ahead. So but I use QuickBooks. That's what I would suggest. If it was a new person, definitely get QuickBooks, an inventory lab just to kind of see like where your ASIN profitability is at for inventory lab, and then just like your monthly spend and how much your expenses are. QuickBooks is like a necessity.
Right. QuickBooks definitely, especially if you're going to get a bookkeeper, he's going to need QuickBooks as well.
Mhm.
I recently got a bookkeeper through online jobs from the Philippines, and just in case if you need one, he's really good price. I don't know how much you spend or how much you pay for your services with your accountant,
It's a
but he
lot.
does a great price and everything's up to date. He's got years of experience. I don't know if I might send you a link to him. He's a really nice guy and he does a great job. But
Okay, cool. Yeah.
I didn't get a bookkeeper till later on, maybe like 4 months ago, and he had spent some. I felt bad for him, but he had spent all that time like backtracking everything. And I had to upload all.
That's pretty much the same for me. I think it was May, like
Yeah,
around May this year. So
yeah, yeah. But it'll be so much better. Like especially the end of this year. Like I want to know where I'm at before if I got to
mhm.
spend more so I can decrease my profit a little bit at the end of the month.
Yeah,
So.
no, it's 100% worth it.
Oh,
Like it when it's like when you are ready to take this business like seriously, you
yeah.
have to know your numbers to like a T. And I hate like I'm not an accountant. I don't want to spend all my time doing that.
Mhm.
Hiring it out is like 100% worth it.
Yeah. So like my VAs, obviously my bookkeeper is not really a VA, but like I have that admin VA. I told you he does all the repricing, priming, and stuff like that. But he
Mhm.
also updates the cost of goods and everything on my seller board. At the very least, I think if you're new, get seller board. It's pretty cheap. It's like $20 a month, I think, and you can at least keep up with your numbers that way instead of using like Excel sheet. It's worth
Yeah.
the cost to know where you're at every month. Um, but you have an accountant and everything as well, so that's awesome. Uh,
Yeah.
so I wanted to ask you, what do you believe has helped you transition from 0 to 20K to 20K to 50K, and then more?
The biggest thing is just spending the money.
Yeah.
You kind of have to like know how much do I need to spend to make this,
Mhm.
and that's really what it comes down to. Like you can't come in and expect, hey, I'm gonna make, I want to make 10K in profit a month. And it's like, all right, well, do you know how much you're gonna have to spend to make that? Like,
They
that's a
haven't gotten
lot.
there
And
yet.
because you're not something that you don't realize is when you're thinking, because this is the mistake I was making earlier this year before my accountant kind of showed it to me. I was thinking, I would go as low as a 10% ROI on my products. Like, and I was going for volume. I didn't care, as long as it made a, $2 profit and 10%, I had the money. I wanted like go volume. But the thing you don't realize is that it's not just 10%. Yes, you're making the 10% on the product, but all the expenses that follow it.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're going to net 10% of everything you made on Amazon because you have other things. So maybe you pay interest on a credit card, or you have, you have a business vehicle and you're paying interest on your vehicle and your monthly payments. And maybe you have an Amazon loan. So you're paying the interest on that. So all those expenses, so say that's 4% of your total like revenue. So it's like, okay, well now you just went from 10% to now 6. Well, okay, maybe you have a prep center and that's 3% of your revenue. So now you just went down even more. So you're really not making 10.
Right.
Now you're making 3%
Yeah.
margins. Like, and I didn't realize, you don't know until you know.
Right.
And when they showed me that, they're like, girl, you can't keep doing this. You're gonna run
Yeah.
yourself into the ground.
Yeah.
You're profitable right now, but like eventually you can't keep this up. So it made me realize like my margins have to be higher because it's not 10% at the end of the day is great, but it has to be after all your business expenses, your softwares, everything. And I wasn't taking that into account. So I would definitely say like if you're a new seller, like you have to aim higher margins. Like you probably want at least 20%. Like
Right.
ROI at the end of the day because it's not really going to be 20%. You're going to lose more because you just have other business expenses that you're not accounting for just from that product.
Yeah, and that's why the significance of having like seller board and in conjunction
Mhm.
accountant and stuff is so important because seller board only shows you your cost of goods and your sold on an inventory level. But once you get a bookkeeper or an accountant, they'll show you your overall profit and loss per month. And that's when you're like, golly, especially like returns. I don't think new sellers understand how much you're paying out of your own pocket when someone returns an item, that restocking fee, unless you actually go to the billing side on your Amazon
Yeah.
dashboard, and you'll see how much you're paying for every return. And that's kind of why I abstained from buying shoes as much as I did, because that's how I got into Amazon, was selling a bunch of shoes because I was already selling shoes prior to that. And that's kind of now, once I got that bookkeeper and I saw all those fees and whatnot, I don't do shoes as much anymore. And you'll see all other kind of fees you're spending too, like on prep and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, a lot of new sellers, it's not really in our community, but a lot of new sellers are lured in from these accounts. I don't know if you see them, but these accounts that people are just bragging and being braggadocious about how much they're selling and making on Amazon, but really they're not being authentic. It's not sincere, and they're just trying to make a quick buck. And most people
Yeah.
that see those orange bars just think profit. Like you mentioned, they'll see the orange bars 10K and they'll just think profit, but they haven't gotten to the part where they're like, well, how much am I spending to make that money? And that's why I like asking that question, because I know you're going to answer with, pragmatic and authentic way. And that's, unfortunately, that's how people get lured in, and they might not have enough money to begin with, and now they're spending it on products that they can't make a profit on, and they're losing money because they don't really know how much they're profiting, right?
Yeah, and that was my issue. Like, I didn't really know my numbers. I was like, "Yeah, I think it's between this percent." Like, when people ask me, like, I honestly didn't know. I was like, "I mean, I know I'm profitable because I'm still doing this, but
We
like,
got
I
money in
don't
the
know
bank.
it to a T."
Yeah.
And at a certain point, like, you have to know because it's like when you start spending a lot of money, that's a lot of money. Like, you need to know that you're doing the right thing when you're spending thousands of dollars. And I know from a new seller thinking like, "Oh, I'm gonna go spend 20K and drop 20K," on a
Yeah.
wholesale, you're like, holy crap, that's a lot of
Yeah.
money. And
Yeah.
it's weird because now it's like I'm so used to spending that
Right.
sometimes in my personal life, I'm like, someone's like, oh yeah, that's like $300. I'm like, that's it? Like,
Okay.
that's not like a lot. Like, that's what, like 300, like that's like $30 now in my head because I'm so used to
Yeah.
spending so much. And it's like, your like money like gets
It
skewed.
spoils you, or almost, right?
Yeah. Like
Seeing all
30,
those numbers on Amazon just spoils you. Uh,
yeah.
so as far as capital, I know you mentioned capital. When I first started selling, I try to keep it really simple. I was like, I want to make 10,000 a month. So I just divided 10,000 divided by 31, 30 days, comes up to about 800. And that was like my goal. I want to spend $800 a day. And I think that it can be a gift and a curse, right? You start trying to
Mhm.
buy bad inventory just to meet the 800. But I
That's a
think
lot for someone starting out, spending 800 a day. Like that's like intimidating.
it is. It is. Well, I'm just kind of throwing out a number. 10,000 divided by 30. You can go less. I think at least doing it that way and keep it simple. I think that way kind of motivates you to buy and source, and rather than just sourcing. You're sourcing for a purpose. You're not just sourcing
Yeah.
to get good. So, speaking of capital, that is obviously a really important factor when you want to scale. Is there different avenues that you went about to get capital? Was it credit cards, Amazon loans?
Yeah, so I was horrible. I would tell you as a new seller, get a credit card only for Amazon spending. I used all of like me and my husband's like personal cards. It was
Oh,
a
snap.
nightmare come
Yeah.
tax time. Okay. Trying to like
Right.
divide up what came from what was like, was
Right.
it personal, was it business? So just like straight off the bat, like keep it separate from the beginning.
Yeah.
And so I pretty much used personal credit cards like the entire 2021.
Nice.
That's where I made all like I didn't pull from like cash we actually had, which is I guess like kind of scary. Like think about it now. Like if I would have messed up, it would have been bad. Um,
Yeah.
but like I said, I came in when it was like chlorine time.
Mhm.
So the profit was like stupid on like these, the pools and chlorines where like my husband was okay, like let's go drop 10K on this like pallet that just came in because this all sells in 24 hours. So it's like it's so skewed the way that I came in because I came in at kind of a perfect time to make a lot of money very easily. It was ungated,
Yeah.
no issues there and stuff like that. But we utilized our credit cards, our personal credit cards, because we probably had about seven in total, and they were like ranging from like 5 to like 10K each. I didn't max them all out. Okay. But that's what I utilized. I used credit cards. And like I said, lucky enough, a lot of them were like 0% interest
Yeah.
for like, 12, 24 months, things like that. So I was able to kind of play with that. So if you're just starting out, be safe with your credit card because you don't want to put yourself in debt that you don't need to.
Yeah.
But definitely get a card that's like 0% APR for at least 12 months, like 12 to 24 months. So then you can just have like that money to play with essentially,
Mhm.
for the next year or two. And you should be able to like make money within, a year or two. You should be able to pay that off.
Yeah.
So that would be like my biggest like tip. And if you needed capital and you didn't have the investment and the cash up front, you could play with like a credit card. Just be
Right.
safe.
Yeah. Yeah. This isn't financial advice, but
Yeah.
definitely I'm a huge proponent of zero APR credit cards. Even
Mhm.
outside of Amazon, my personal life, I I love credit cards, right? Interest, or sorry, the points and rewards and everything like
Yeah.
that. So when I came into Amazon, I look for. I think my strategy right now is I'll just ladder 0% APR cards. I have a pretty good credit score where I'll get a huge limit, right? Uh,
Hmm.
so I don't when I see those people that are boasting about the Amazon loads, and it's no indictment on them, any kind of interest kind of steers me away because there's
Yeah.
so many 0% APR credit cards on the market, and you can open one, close it after 2 years, and then it shouldn't ding your credit score or anything like that from closing it. I've never experienced that myself, but things like or the Chase Inc. Chase Business Cash.
Yeah.
Right now they have a $900 promo, which is actually more than their normal promo, which is 750. So
I think I got that. I think I
there
may
you
have just got
go.
because I had every like Q4, I always get 0% interest, so I can just like bank all of like that big spending up front. I don't have to worry about paying it off. Like, and I can wait a little bit. So I just did that, and I hit some type of promo, and I
Yeah.
had like 900 or something in rewards, and I was like, "Oh, this is nice."
Yeah, it comes in quickly too, and
Yeah.
there's 4 of them in that Chase Inc. family, whatever, right?
Mhm.
And I thought, okay, if I applied for like the second one, there's no way they're gonna give me the promo. Lo and behold, they gave me the promo, and they gave me the promo again on the third one too. So, and those are, I think all but one give you a 12-month APR, so 0% APR. So right
Yeah.
there is like 3 years technically of spending if you have a good credit score and get a pretty large credit limit with them. But there's
Yeah.
also a whole bunch of other credit cards with 0% APR that I think if you're responsible with credit cards, you should look into if you need more capital. So
I wish I did that in the beginning.
yeah, well, hey, it's a learning experience, right?
Yeah.
Um, so during your time selling on Amazon, what is the most tumultuous time that you've had, whether it be like an IP complaint that you couldn't overcome, or just any sort of stressful things that Amazon might have told you? Could you please give us a story about that?
Um, I'm not trying to be optimistic, but I really don't have that many.
Okay,
You know, I'm trying.
that's a good thing.
I would say the biggest thing, and it wasn't really Amazon, it was like me,
Uh,
was I had bought way too much stock of something, and it was like, and I actually made a tweet, and I was like, nothing good happens after 2 a.m., including sourcing. And I like went like 12K deep on this
oh,
product, and it was variations of it, but like 12K deep.
sheesh.
Um, and it was not a good thing. I was looking for the reason why it would work, and if it worked, how much money would I make? Versus like, what if this goes horribly wrong? How much am I going to lose?
That's why.
I didn't like outweigh it. I wanted the good profit. Anyways, I had to take a huge loss. Like the listings like tanked. It was horrible. And I lost like 12K like last year from that. And I was
Um,
just like, "Oh god, that sucks." But, like, the thing with me is, like, I lose it and then I learn from it and I just keep going.
right.
Like, my husband will be like, "Bro, like, how much you lose?" Like, I'm like, "Oh, 12K." And he's like,
Bring it
"What?"
back.
And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "How are you so calm?" He always does that. Every time, like, something comes up, he's like, "How are you so calm? Aren't you freaking out?" I'm like, "No, I got this. Like, I know I got
There you go.
this." So, like, I don't know if that's, like, a good thing or a bad
Good
thing.
thing. No, that's a great
Uh
trait. Yeah.
but I usually don't freak out. Now, if my Amazon account got deactivated tomorrow, I'd probably freak out a little bit because I'd be like, oh crap, I have a lot of money in there right now. This
Right.
isn't good. But luckily, I haven't had to deal with anything like that. But honestly, it all comes to like overcoming like any obstacles. When I first started, I had gotten like two trademarks and a counterfeit claim in like the same week. I don't know how it wasn't deactivated because I was in like the first month or two of me selling.
Okay.
And I was just like, what's this from? I'm like, oh, I was selling on a misbranded listing. I didn't even know that was a thing. And then the counterfeit one, I mean, that one I got taken care of, but I never freaked out about it. I was just kind of like, I always had the mindset, I'm going to make this work, like no matter what. So whatever gets thrown at me, it's like, I'm just going to adapt to it. And that's what I've always done. Even when I lost 12K, like that sucked, but I
Right.
knew I still made money where I wasn't like putting myself in a bad position. And especially with like the accountant I got, I I was looking at like the finances and I was realizing like, holy crap, like I'm running this into the ground. Like I can't keep doing this.
Right.
Even though I was putting up big numbers, like on the back end, I wasn't as profitable as like I should have been.
Okay.
And that's kind of the skew. Like you never know, like, oh, someone can say, oh, I made like 20K today. But like how much were they liquidating? Maybe they were liquidating all their bad stuff, and that's
You
why
don't
their sales
know.
were awesome.
Yeah.
Because that happened to me when I had to liquidate all those that bad buy and lost 12K. Well, it looked like I did really good that month, but really I was taking a loss on all of it.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's probably happened to
so
more people than you think too.
yeah, I mean, and it happens. Like this business, you're gonna lose money. Like if you told me, like, oh yeah, I haven't lost money on a product in like over a year, I'd be like, you're lying, bro. Like I
Yeah.
know you're lying. There's no way because just you can't predict like Amazon. It can be a perfect listing and something happens and like maybe Amazon jumps on or someone gets it at wholesale and now that listing you can't sell anymore. Like you just don't know like the outcome. But so you just have to keep adapting to it.
Yeah, and I really appreciate the transparency there because again, people don't talk about the negatives on Amazon business, and that's a part of it. Everyone just wants to flaunt how you can get rich selling on Amazon, and things like that happen all the time. And people aren't really telling the full story on a lot of the posts and community that we have. And I feel bad for new sellers that get steered the wrong way. So I really appreciate that transparency. As far as stressful time for me, I think anyone who starts selling on Amazon, they get flagged with an IP complaint or a counterfeit complaint. It's a very daunting time. Like for myself, that was kind of what I had to experience. At that time, I didn't know that when you buy from a third party on Walmart, I didn't even know I did buy a third party from
Mhm.
Walmart. But
I've
anyways,
done it on accident too.
I got a counterfeit complaint on that one product that I realized was a third party seller.
Aw,
Long story short, I tried to ask him for an invoice on Walmart, found out he got banned on Walmart. So then I was like, oh shit, like this is not, this might be counterfeit, and it was the first time I ever had to acknowledge a counterfeit violation. And it happened right at that time, when everyone was getting that account deactivation banner
mhm.
on their phone.
Yeah.
It happened at that time, and I was like, "This is it. This is the end of my business."
Oh, no.
So it was just a coincidence, obviously, but at that time, I didn't realize it, right? So I really thought I was in big
Mhm.
trouble there. But Yeah, I think new sellers, anytime they'll get any kind of violations, I think it can be pretty scary to them. But as long as you have your templates and your POA and your invoices, you should be fine. Uh,
Yeah.
so just kind of wrapping this up, I want to ask you one more question because I know you have a kind of a system of your virtual assistants. Can you share what kind of system that you do have with your VAs and how you implement them?
Yeah, so I only have one currently. I made a job posting and I just have been way too busy. I haven't done like anything with it.
Mhm.
But I plan to have at least two more by next year, at the end of next year. So right now she just pretty much she helps me with my wholesale leads.
Oh, nice.
So I have a Discord and she helps in there. So I pretty much taught her, hey, this is how you find wholesalers. And I
Mhm.
want you to get me the information. I told her how to look them up to make sure they're legit. And so that's her main job she does for me. And then I kind of like throw her some stuff on the side. So I'll be like, hey, I just ran this thing through Keepa. I want you to go through this. And I did this actually recently. And I said, hey, tell me all of these toys. I want you to look back in from a year in the past years. Tell me from November to January, did Amazon stock out? What was the price? If it's over this amount, I want you to like create a lead out of it, like put on an Excel document, and I want you to go through all of it. I think I had like it was like over 1,000 like products, and it's something she can do versus like my time is like I need to do other stuff. I don't have time to look at that.
Right.
So she sent me a whole spreadsheet of all the products that Amazon stocked out of or the price inflated during Q4.
Nice.
So like I kind of give her like random tasks like that to do. It's not like a set thing other than the wholesale leads. And then I have her create some other leads for my group.
Mhm.
That's pretty much her main job. And then I just like throw her different tasks. So she's kind of like I don't know the word is like a joker or something where it's like she just does a bunch of different things.
Um,
I think
um,
that's like the term.
okay. So does she source for you personally as well and do all like admin stuff for you?
No, so she pretty much just helps me all with like my group.
Okay.
So yeah, all the sourcing I do is like essentially on my own or through my group myself.
Okay.
Um, and like I said, I kind of doubled down on the products I knew. So all this stuff I sell previously last year or like currently, I'm just doubling down on the stuff I know because I'm really just trying to like up like my equity of the business. I know we didn't really talk about that, but like my accounting, it's like after everything, what is your business worth? And I'm trying to up that number. So I'm just trying to like hone in on the stuff that I know works, and take less risks. So it means I'm not sourcing new stuff as much. I'm just like finding variations off of the products I already know, if that makes sense. So if it's like I'm
Yeah,
selling
for sure.
like glasses. Well, I know that this glass does really well, so I'm gonna like look at more from that brand, or like this model does well. Let me look at other brands of this model, kind of a thing is what I've been doing. So that's kind of how I've been like sourcing.
Yeah, yeah, and you're right. I mean, it sounds very simple, but it's very powerful, right? You just stick to things that
Yeah.
have been working for you and just go deeper on that. And that's kind of what I've been trying to stick to during Q4 as well.
And if it
But
doesn't work, then it's like, all right, now I'll go change it. But if it works, like
it works.
Amazon doesn't always let you continue to do the things that work.
Yeah,
So it's like
yeah,
when something's working for you, like go all in on that. And then when it
yes,
doesn't work anymore, all right, find the next thing. But don't always try to find a new thing. It just is like, it's just stressful to me. Like that's why with OA, it's like why, again, wholesale appeals to me. Cause like I just hate always having to look for the new hot product. What's the new product? Like, bro,
yeah,
I just want to sell y'all some like eye cream and like be done with my day. Like I don't want to have to find the new thing. I just hate sometimes I hate the chase of that. So
yeah.
I just want something more like chill.
Yeah, it's almost like once you found like a niche category or a
Mhm.
brand, it always seems like go hard right now because you know Amazon's coming soon, or not just Amazon, something's gonna happen to the listing. And then
Yeah.
although, yeah, it's
A
easy to say you're
VA,
still in a
a
huh?
VA finds it and tells everybody about it,
Yeah.
and then you're like, "Oh crap, it's gone."
But see, it's so easy to say adapt, and you will. You're gonna have to adapt. But like, golly, well, I just spent the last 3 months getting so used to this category and all these different brands, and now I got to move somewhere else. And then you're right, and that could be a reason to why a wholesale can be appealing, right? Because you don't have to deal with that bull crap anymore.
Mhm.
So, just finally, what is a message or advice that you can give new sellers that you don't see being discussed in the Amazon community?
Um,
That's
you're
my
gonna
final
lose
question.
money. You're huh?
That's my final question for you. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna say you're gonna lose money. Like that's it. Like you're like be prepared to lose money. Invest what you can.
Mhm.
Don't care about big numbers. Like that's one thing, I got caught up in wanting to look big. It's like, especially social media, you always have to look like you're doing better than you did before. And if you're not, and they're not really selling on Amazon anymore, they don't really care about it. Like you almost have to keep like doing better. And sometimes even like as yourself, like just focus on what you know and just try to grow with what you know. If you only can spend $300 a month on inventory, only spend that. It's just going to take
Right.
you longer to grow than the last person. But majority of the people that are doing well on Amazon aren't talking about it. They're just doing it behind closed doors. They don't have a social media presence. So don't feel like you have to like share that with everybody. You can still be involved in communities and not show your face or not broadcast your numbers.
Right.
But I would definitely say, like, if you're just starting out, like, network, like, and that can just be like, finding someone on Instagram that's kind of close to what you're doing. Hey, I see you're doing this. Like, that's cool. Like, let's go on a call and like source together. Or, hey, I found this lead. Like, I see you're doing Amazon. You're just starting. Like, I wanted to share this with you. Like, just try to find like some type of like group to be involved in, because more than likely you don't know anyone doing Amazon other than what you're seeing on the screen. So, the biggest thing is just know somebody else who's doing it and be able to talk, like shop with them essentially.
Yeah.
So-
Go ahead.
no, you're good. You
I
can.
was like, yeah, at the very least, just if you're just watching YouTube and you're selling on Amazon, just make an account and just follow Noel or myself, and you can find a bunch of other sellers. And so your Instagram is kind of filled with more Amazon content, just kind of motivates you more when you see other people doing the same thing as you and like-minded as you. Can't if you want to do it alone, be my guest, but it's just more easier to sell around other people online.
Yeah, I mean, like when I started, I was making like, 3K a month, and then I was 5K, and then like 7, and then all of a sudden I shot up to like 30K because I
Yeah,
joined that group. And I
yeah.
mean, yes, like chlorine, like, it like is a little bit tricky there, but
And you
like
saw people doing better than
yeah, I
you.
would have
Motivated.
never known about that if it wasn't for that group. So like join some group, and there's so many free ones, and whatever. And if you need help with leads, there's so many paid ones you can buy that just help you like learn what is profitable and why is it profitable. So that would be my biggest thing. Join some type of group and like actually talk. Like just don't watch. Like put your
Yeah,
name out there and start talking,
yeah,
because that's how in the group that I had joined, I was very active in it. And the other people that are very active with it, you just automatically start to like become friends with them because you're talking so much to them. And then you create your own little group, and now it's like, you essentially could be like friends for life, or Amazon sellers, all together. And that makes like a huge difference in like this space.
agreed, agreed. So I know that you have a leads list in a group. Could you please kind of elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I have my own Discord. So it's called Kona Reselling Warriors. It's the same like my name, just with warriors at the end of it. We have a elite group, so that's like where you're getting leads every single month. We have a warrior membership, which is just the community. I know some people, they don't need leads anymore, but they still want to be a part of like a network.
Mhm.
So I have that, and then I just recently launched an ungated reselling warriors, and so that's for anyone newer or someone who just doesn't want to have gated leads. I provide ungated leads like throughout the whole month for you guys. So those are the 3 different memberships I have for my group. But it's filled with like so much knowledge. It's like, it's stupid how much stuff, but like I add to it every time I learn something. I pretty much add a channel, like a counterfeit claim we were talking about earlier. I have like a channel for that of exactly how to get it removed. That's worked like 9 out of 10 times.
Right.
So pretty much just like as I learn stuff or as things come up, like we have Walmart selling in there if you want to get started on Walmart. So pretty much it's just like as I go through my journey, I just kind of share and I create another channel. So it's really big, and just like chocked with so much information in it. But yeah, and I started that back beginning of last year.
Cool. Yeah, so it sounds like you have different kinds of plans, whichever people are interested to opt
Mhm.
into, and there's a community there. So that's a great place to start if you're trying to find somewhere to belong, I guess, when you first start selling on Amazon. Especially things like IP complaints and counterfeit complaints. If you have a guide that can help you steer your way through it, that in itself is very invaluable. So the fact that you even have that is probably really worth people's money and time. So that's awesome. Um,
Yeah.
Also, can you plug your Instagram and your YouTube as well?
Yeah, so Instagram is Kona underscore reselling. Twitter is the same thing, Kona underscore reselling. And then YouTube is just Kona reselling. So try to make it really easy, just same name across
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah, and shout out, she has a great shipping template video if you guys are interested on the YouTube. No, I'm being dead serious. Like because I've been doing FEM a lot lately, and lo and behold, I had a shipping that was twice what my selling price was. I was like, what the hell is this? So I had to go update my shipping template. I just YouTube, and there you were.
I
So
love that though. I love that you like watch my video.
yeah,
I know
yeah.
they're very like how to do like instructed because a lot of people add a lot of fluff to like their videos, and you're like, I don't want to hear them talk. I just want to see what I'm supposed to do. But yeah, you start to learn not to move the screen a lot because you have to blur out a lot.
Yes, yes, you do. Then you hit it on the head right there.
Yeah.
Um, okay, well, hey, Noel, thank you so much for coming on. I think out of all my people I've interviewed, you've probably given the most information. I really appreciate that. The viewers appreciate that. All the more to follow her and join her group. Noel, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, of course. And if anyone ever wants to message me on Instagram, like I always answer my DMs. So as long as you're not offering me your drop shipping services, I will answer
Or
you.
ungating services.
Yeah, I'm not gonna answer you. But if you actually want help and just like need someone to talk to, I'm more than happy to help.
All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching.
All right, thank you.